Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Ben's Basement, formerly known as the Crossover Podcast. It is time to talk about Severance, Season 2, Episode 5. This was obviously off the back of a very, very, as Lumen would put it, calamitous Ortbo. A lot of stuff went down in Episode 4, and so going into Episode 5, I was hoping that we would get some sort of answers, but of course, in typical Severance fashion, we got nothing but more questions, and none of our former questions were answered. So let's hop right into a little summary of the episode. So Irving is gone, and obviously the MDR team is upset by that. Obviously, who wouldn't be? I'm upset. I need Irving back in MDR. I love Irv, but as we see later on in the episode, Irv is not on a voyage, as Milchick said. He is indeed still in the town of Kier, and he's trying to do what he set out to do, burn Lumen to the ground. But anyways, I got a little bit too ahead of myself. So let's take a few steps back. The macro data refiners know who Heli really is. And Heliar, or should I say Helena, because Heliar is back finally for the first time this season, and she's rightfully upset. Heli really is living in a crazy time. Her character arc is wild because she went from being grabbed off stage at the Lumen Severance, whatever you would call that, conference, and then she woke up to being drowned by Irv, and then she's back in the office, and she has no answers. And you would think for someone who isn't Egan, she would be a little bit more in the loop because it's nuts. It is nuts down here, Heli, and she deserves some answers. She's obviously feeling very conflicted. Helena clearly doesn't think that Heli is a real person, and I would argue Heli has more personality than Helena ever would. When I saw Heli get out of that elevator and do her strut down the hallway, I knew Heli was back. I knew that wasn't Helena. I knew that was Heliar with her little strut. Then we go into the story of the Grakschuppen, which I think was so funny. There's so much dry humor in this show, and like Milchick, of course nobody knows what the Grakschuppen is. I mean, they've been alive for 2 years. They're innies. Why would they know what the Grakschuppen is? So he tells that story, and it's obviously a complete lie. And then they have Irving's funeral, and Mark is very despondent. He's aloof this episode. I mean, why would we expect him to not be? He just figured out that the girl who he thought he was in love with really wasn't Heliar. It was Helena. And I think it's this weird love triangle because it's making Mark question, like, he on one hand is looking for Gemma, and that is his number one goal, but then I think he realizes, like, he is starting to fall. Any Mark is falling for Helena, not Heliar, Helena. He loves either version of her, and to see that kind of cold shoulder that Mark gives Heli was sad. I wanted them to kind of hash it out but I do feel like Heli is definitely violated, and Heli just wants someone to confide in, and she wants someone to support her, and that would have been Mark, but Mark is just over it. I mean, he basically got sexually assaulted by Helena. I would be upset too, but Heli is kind of left with no one to support her, with Irving now gone, and Dylan is now fixated on the exports hall after the message that Irving left. So we're left with Heli just feeling lost, and I really do feel bad for her. I'm on Heli's side here, and I can't wait for them to go deeper into the Helena versus Heliar, because I really love that dynamic, and it's different than anyone else's innie versus outie. Like Dylan G, there's not much going on with his innie. We know he's kind of a deadbeat. We know he can't keep, or his outie, we know he can't keep jobs. Irv, we know he wants to find Bert. We know he likes to paint. Mark, The reintegration is going too slow for me. I need to know what's going on with Mark S. I need him reintegrated now, because my thought is they're not going to reveal what Cold Harbor is until the last episode, because the last episode of the season is titled Cold Harbor. But I can't wait another 5 weeks for this season finale. And that tells me, for my guess, Cold Harbor, we're getting the reveal by the end of this season. Segueing off of Cold Harbor into Mr. Milchick's progress report, we learn that Milchick is not really what Lumen wants in the severed floor manager. They want someone who has a tighter leash. They want someone who treats the innies like they're less than people, like Harmony used to. And Milchick is, I've seen a lot of people say, as he is an African-American man in the corporate world, he knows what it's like to be treated kind of less than the others. So he is extending out a helping hand, and he's actually being kind to these innies. But Lumen has a completely different stance on that. Drummond was expressing how Lumen's not really happy with what Milchick's doing, and he could be in some hot water. He could be on the hot seat for his job. So that makes me wonder, is Milchick going to turn? I kind of had that thought. But then the awkward confrontation where Milchick straight up says, "Did you tell Heliar her outie on the Ortbo?" And so I think from the point of his status report and on, Milchick's not messing around anymore. Like he said, he's tightening the leash, and I really think he's going to crack down on the freedoms that he's given MDR. So I do wonder what's going to happen in the Export Hall storyline, because if Milchick really does tighten the leash, that means no more hall passes, that means no more wandering, that means the MDR is just doing their job. Really interested to see what Milchick does and how he makes of the whole situation that's going on with Lumen and him, between the blackface paintings, between their complaints of him were Miss Huang said he uses too many big words and he puts paper clips on backwards. Like, I feel like they're really nitpicking at what he needs to improve on. And another scene that I thought was really funny. They said uses too many big words, and Milchick says, "Perchance I colloquially," like, Seth. There's no way to better prove their point than saying, "Perchance I colloquially use." You use big words. It's funny. That's why I love Milchick. He's just like, he's over the top professional, and he's way too over the top. And I feel like they are maybe hinting, and there's a little bit of race coming into it, because Harmony was not as, she was professional, don't get me wrong, but Harmony was a little nutty. Harmony threw a pencil sharpener at Mark's head. Harmony was not afraid to show the team that she is she's crazy. And Milchick, I feel like, is taking a lot more kind approach, and a lot more humanistic approach, and a lot more professional. And I think that could have something to do with the fact that he is an African-American man in a corporate world. He's trying to show to Lumen that he clearly is worthy. He is worthy of this job title, and he is worthy of being the severed floor manager. And I think Lumen just isn't really on the same page. So something's going to happen there. Enough about Milchick. Let's get to Cold Harbor, because in his progress report, Drummond said Cold Harbor is going to be one of the most important, one of the biggest milestones in human history. That makes me kind of think that what Lumen does is they bring people back to life, because we also learned Gemma's ashes weren't actually the ashes in the container in Mark's box. So I think what Lumen is really doing is bringing these dead people back to life, and then the macro data refiners are kind of refining their emotions. That's why Mark is able to fly through this Cold Harbor, is because he knows Gemma so well. Or maybe he's been working on Gemma and he's now at the last stage, because as we learn, Mark had a record time for completing his first file. That makes me think maybe he's coding Gemma's emotions. He's coding Gemma's tempers. So he knows, he recognizes these scary numbers because of how well he knew Gemma, so he's able to just fly right through it. So, to my point, he is now about to finish programming Gemma to be the Gemma that he knew and the Gemma that he married. And clearly Miss Casey was some sort of prototype version that wasn't finished. Maybe they were testing her out to see how human she was or how human she became. But I do think at this point it's not really a mystery. I think a lot of Severance fans believe that Mark is coding something for Gemma to come back to life. Another thing I would like to touch on is Milchick and Mrs. Huang. Miss Huang is an interesting character. I have no idea what her story is, and no one does. We barely know anything about the woman, or should I say the girl. But it seems like her and Milchick are in not a power struggle, but it seems like Huang is questioning how Seth does his job, because when I was watching with one of my friends and laughed out loud at this point when they're preparing for the funeral, and Huang goes, I thought funerals are only for when innies die on the floor. Excuse me? Like, what are we talking about? Like I said at the beginning of the episode, the mysteries and the unknown about Lumen just goes, it is like the YouTube icebergs explained, but the iceberg is never ending. That's just such a weird comment, and they have their dynamic is shifting. Miss Huang was just kind of like the floor man, the I don't even know, security, the supervisor, and now she's kind of pushing back on what Milchick's doing and questioning him, which we haven't seen yet. And then, of course, we get the hilarious moment when Miss Huang wants to play her theremin and Milchick says, no, you can play your piece for me. I don't care that you've practiced. The theremin needs to be played in moderation, which I thought was really funny. I probably should have touched on this earlier, the opening scene where the person on, I don't even know where it was, in O&D got the dentist equipment. I have no idea who that is. I've seen some people say it might be Petey. It looks a little bit like Petey. I saw one theory that said it was Kier. I don't think that's Kier Egan. I really have I would have talked about it earlier, but I have genuinely zero clue who or what that is or what it's about. All we know is that he goes down to the testing floor. I haven't seen any good theories about that. I don't have any good theories about that myself, so just skim over that. One thing I would like to touch on, though, is in the beginning of the episode, he was humming a song. Severance takes place in Michigan. Kier is in Michigan, and we see Kier when he's overlooking the vast outdoors, and people kind of have figured out that it's the Finger Lakes. At the beginning of the episode, the gray-haired dentist man is humming a song that's titled The Wreck of Edmund Fitzgerald. In The Wreck of Edmund Fitzgerald, it was a boat of some sort that sank in Lake Superior, and everyone on board died. So I've seen some theories that kind of say, okay, Lake Superior is known as one of the deepest lakes on Earth, I believe, and it even goes so deep that some bacteria can't survive. So the theory might be that Lumen is somehow cryogenically freezing Kier and the rest of the Lumen family tree down in there, which I can't really see coming to fruition, but it's an interesting theory that has something to do with maybe cryogenic freezing, and we know that, or we think, Lumen is somehow trying to bring back Kier and implement Kier's chip into somebody else, bring him back to life. I don't know. As I said, there's a lot of fishy stuff going on with Lumen, and there's so many questions that I need answered. And Mark's reintegration, it's going way too slow for me. By the way, what did Gemma say at the end of the episode? I've seen people say maybe you are going to be a father, but I don't know. I thought that theory was really good, but now I feel like, I don't know, maybe they're going in a different direction. But it's actually kind of funny to know that none of the theories will probably come true. The creator, Brian Erickson, did say he peruses through the subreddit, the Severance subreddit, quite often, but I don't know. None of the theories will probably come true. I cannot wait until Thursday night. I look forward to Thursday night like no other. Obviously, Invincible releases every Thursday, but then we have Severance every Thursday night. It's just such a fantastic day when I get to sit down and watch 50 minutes of greatness every week. With that said, I would like to wrap things up. I feel like I kind of covered everything. I've watched this episode twice. I was so bored when I was on Saturday night that I was like, you know what? I may as well just watch it again. And I didn't really catch anything. Most of the episode was just spent with MDR during their funeral for Irv. Like I said, I feel so bad for Helly R. And I want Mark. Like, she wants to help their cause. She really does. But Mark can't trust her. And Mark was her person on that floor. So now it's just really... It's really unfortunate because if I was Mark, I wouldn't trust her either. And now Mark has kind of given up. Any Mark has given up on trying to find Gemma. Any Mark just wants to finish his file and do his work because Helena went down there and Helena ruined everything. She told the higher ups at Lumen what their plans are. They're not going to be able to do anything. So if I was Mark, like, you see, he gives up. He says, they know everything. They control us. Everything they do is on purpose. They let us do things, and they don't care because they know we're not going to find anything out. And it's sad. It's sad to see. Any Mark was a more joyous, more ambitious side of Mark that we don't see in his outie. He's like a little bit more grouchy, and he's he's not as fun of a guy as his outie. But as any, you see kind of a different aspect of him as a person. You see more hope, you see more joy, you kind of see more of a sparkle in his eye than Audi Mark. So now when he becomes reintegrated, I think that opens up a whole other plot line that they can go into. I don't know. Like I said last video about this, I could talk about this show all day. I have so many questions, I have so many theories, I have so many everything. I think this is just such a masterful show. It's by far the best on TV right now. I'm happy that The White Lotus is back. I definitely am. Love The White Lotus. Just film the video for White Lotus. But Severance is the best on TV, and I don't think it's particularly close. So, with that said, I'll wrap up today's episode. It's 20 minutes, but it could go on for longer. But I have to stop it right now. The camera's starting to die. So let me know what you guys thought about Season 2, Episode 5 of Severance. I can't wait until Thursday. 3 more days. Leave your theories in the comments, thoughts on the episode. Let me know what you think about this style of video. And I'll see you guys in the next vid.